Hello, everybody. Tammy here from MDT Academy. This is our YouTube Mama Drama Trauma channel. Welcome. I wanted to stop in and just talk a little bit about the moon, specifically about where our inner child goes to hide when we are wounded, specifically when we're triggered, because with MDT we're already wounded with a feeling of maternal abandonment and abuse. We notice it most when we're triggered into anxiety or just feeling unappreciated or familiar emotions that really take us into tailspins. Well, that's really an indication that our inner child is crying out to be mothered. Until we receive that maternal care, presence, protection that we need, that inner child is going to be dysregulated, especially for us. So, how do we self-mother effectively? Well, I want to tell you that by knowing your moon sign, you will know exactly what you need. So, mama, okay, is our moon sign. If our mother is a particular way, we can see it through our moon sign. If our feelings about our mother, the wounding is constantly triggering, and we can see the drama that this causes is a result of our moon sign. If we are going from 0 to 100 on the people in our lives at sporadic, inopportune, the worst possible times, creating chaos in our lives consistently and persistently, just like mama, well then we benefit from knowing our moon sign quite a bit. So let's look at this. If your moon sign is Aries, then your mother was an initiator, hardworking, someone who probably more often than not had real knee-jerk reactions to things and was constantly going after something, not necessarily finishing it, but always being inspired to do something new. If you have a Taurus moon sign, well then your mother surrounded herself and you with what to her was comfort. What was comforting, food or a beautiful environment, beauty. Your moon sign is Gemini, well then your mother was probably very talkative or creative, a writer, someone who was very inquisitive as well, talked to people, maybe was a gossip perhaps. If your moon sign is Cancer, then your mother probably had great mood swings or just enjoyed the comfort of the family, taking care of the family, or really struggled with that. If you have a Leo moon sign, well then your mother was the center of all attention in your life and in those the people in your environment. Very much adored, likely, and you were seen as probably part of the audience in her life. If your moon sign is Virgo, then your mother was probably very detail oriented, nitpicking perhaps, into healing, into health, that sort of thing, probably struggled with work-life balance. Your mother was Libra, well then your mother probably had a lot of difficulty balancing between her emotions and what she thought about something, and this created a lot of problems with relationships, maybe people pleasing, or maybe just consumed with things that she thought would please people from your perspective, and giving you probably cause for pause in your own life and your own relationships in terms of determining what's most important to you, that being difficult for yourself or others. If your mother, or if your moon sign rather, is Scorpio, we're talking about mama here in the moon sign, then your mother was probably someone who was very deeply spiritual, or someone who was into the occult, into different spirituality, or at least very deeply into understanding emotions, very deeply reflective, allowed you to do what you needed to do in order to find your own Creativity, your own sense of self, your own sense of reality and life was very important to her that you do that. If your moon sign is Sagittarius, well, then your mother was probably into the church a lot, or you're someone who thought that your education was extremely important, and it was a central part of your life, as well as perhaps traveling a bit, or some aspect of travel was in your life. Your Capricorn moon sign, your mother was very hardworking, and that was a value that was transmitted to you and instilled in you. All of these are conditioning that we receive from our mothers. If your mother gave you a lot of reward for hard work, or maybe you didn't feel like you got enough reward for hard work, maybe you didn't work hard enough, and you feel that you need to work hard as a result. That's Capricorn moon sign. Aquarius moon sign, your mother was an individual, did her own thing, had her own definition of life and her own definition of values, and encouraged you to do the same thing, although you had to make sense with it, and it had to align with some type of a sensible way of being and thinking. Usually her way of thinking with mama drama trauma for sure. And if it didn't, there were some issues. And so that's an issue throughout your life, is being able to align your values and your beliefs with others, and that being a struggle, whether or not you can or whether or not you want to, because that individual thread is so strong. That sense of identity and being able to determine your own path is so important. Pisces, finally, if you are Pisces moon sign, well, then you experienced your mother as maybe highly emotional, bouts of emotion, not being able to express herself very well, how she felt, maybe giving you the idea that you were more the responsible one in the relationship, that you had more control than you actually did, or rather that you had more maturity than you did, because she needed a lot of time to herself possibly, and maybe that made you feel alone and maybe alienated. Maybe she had issues with addiction, although all of these, that is a possibility, but with Pisces moon sign, that can be a particular issue, as well as relying a lot on others for feelings of safety, security, on spiritual understanding as well, as opposed to trusting one's own. Now, this is just a general overview, but we want to be clear about that, because when you know what your moon sign is and what that emotional imprint has been for you, then you can anticipate what your inner child, that part of you that is wounded, that still needs your mother as a result of these experiences with MDT, of abandonment, of abuse, of not having the feeling of maternal presence that you needed. You can anticipate your unique brand of what your inner child needs. Your inner child, as a Taurus moon sign, is going to need comforting. And so when you get triggered, that's what it's all about. You do not feel comfortable. You do not feel safe. You do not feel secure. And so as a result of having this awareness, as opposed to just being triggered and saying, well, I know I need to take care of myself, but I don't know how. I don't know, the value of this information is being informed and feel secure. And so as a result of having this awareness, as opposed to just being triggered and saying, well, I know I need to take care of myself, but I don't know how. I don't know, the value of this information is being informed and feel secure enough to say, okay, right now, to come into balance, to come into clarity, what I need is to take care of my comforting in a healthy way. So without this awareness, we will do that, but it will not be in a healthy way, because it has not been modeled to us in a healthy way. For me, I'll overeat. it was modeled to me to get comfort by people pleasing. And so I'll do that too sometimes. But when I apply what Great Mother has given us with the Mama Drama Trauma Healing Oracle deck, I can take a minute, take a breath, and I can say, okay, I'm going to need to take care of myself as opposed to jumping the gun and trying to please others. And I'm going to need to make sure I feel safe and secure, because that's not going to happen for me. I'm in a place right now where I don't feel that way. So what's something healthy that I can do? And sometimes it's usually something as simple as cleaning up my environment, so that I feel lighter. That's really important for us as empaths, and particularly for us as Taurus moon sign empaths, to have a clean environment on an energetic level that calms us down, that calms down the anxiety. And something that simple really does diffuse triggers, and we can just move on. If you're Virgo moon sign and you're triggered, for example, you might just feel that you have this overwhelming need to do something really OCD, perhaps like over clean the house or over sanitize or criticize someone. You just have to talk about it. You just have to do something about what someone has done to trigger you. Anticipating the need of your inner child as one that is going to need to be brought back into some balance, and it's going to need to have some type of a healing or some type of a focus on balance, work-life balance, or where your attention is going, balancing it back with you. Then you can anticipate, okay, I'm going to need to pay a little bit more attention to what I'm doling my energy out to. Because my inner child is crying for me to really focus on myself as opposed to overworking for others or overdoing for others at this particular time. And specifically, what my inner child needs as a Virgo moon sign is for me to be more self-compassionate and not nitpicking myself about something perhaps that I haven't done. So just because we've been conditioned with these things, and just because these are things that we've experienced, that's the drama, we don't have to remain in the trauma of it. Trauma is soul dissociation. The soul dissociates from that because, as we know, we are dearly loved divine children of the great Mother, Father, God, who are never judged, condemned, or left alone. And so the soul doesn't get with that. The soul is really here to evolve in self-love and spiritual independence. So it's not going to resonate and align with that. That's where the trauma comes in, because the ego, the inner child, is dysregulated. And then the soul, our soul source, our energetic source of life on this plane, has abandoned us in the sense of supporting the mindset that keeps keeps us divided. So that's just a little tip on how to use the moon sign, and we'll talk more about it as we proceed. But just a little tip on why it's so useful and why it comes through as a symbol of the Mama Drama Trauma Healing Oracle deck. But above all and most of all, remember, Great Mother loves you, and I do too.
Signs and symbols of astrology, chemistry, geology, geometry, numerology, botany, and biology. Don't you remember? Don't you remember? Great Mother speaks to the humble among us. Great Mother speaks to the humble among us. Divine children of the Great Mother, Father, God. Divine children of the Great Mother, Father, God. Born